Hello everyone, I'm here in the beautiful kitchen at Avena Botanicals in the little town of West Rockport in Maine. And this is the kitchen where we make all of our different herbal remedies, lots of different oils and salves and tinctures. And so today I am just really happy to have the honor and the gift and the deep pleasure and joy to be making Calendula Salve with you. And I wanted just to say that whenever I prepare myself to make any kind of herbal medicine, I like to make sure the space feels clear and clean, however you might do that in your own space, wherever you are in your home or at work preparing beautiful herbal remedies. So I've kind of cleared the space here. And what I always like to do is just to pause. Sometimes I'll just close my eyes and I can just feel my feet, imagine my feet connecting with the earth. And I just think the pause is so important to prepare ourselves inwardly and in our hearts for the incredible gift of making herbal medicine for our families, our loved ones, our community, and beyond. So for me, I usually close my eyes and really connect with my breath. And really breathe into my heart, because I want to be preparing this beautiful Calendula Salve from my heart. So I'm just taking some deep breaths in and really imagining just coming all the way into my heart, just filling my whole heart center with breath. And yeah. And if there's any stress or tension, you can just kind of dance that out of your body. And just also I like to imagine, since today we're working with calendula, I'm also just imagining in my own heart and mind the garden with the beautiful calendula flowers growing and the sound of the bees buzzing. And here we have this amazing beeswax, which is here because of the bees. These beautiful, beautiful honey bees who gift us. So all of that I hold in my imagination, gratitude for the sun that warms the soil, for the rains that nurture the seeds that grow these beautiful, beautiful plants, for the clouds, for the wind, for the songs of the birds, for all the pollinators, and for the helping hands of the humans that come also to be part of this beautiful process. So that's my own simple way that I prepare my heart and my mind and my hands to do this sacred work of making Calendula Salve. So I wanted to just begin to say that salves, herbal oils and salves, are such beautiful things to have in our homes and to give as gifts, because all the things that we put on ourselves topically, our skin is the largest organ of the body. So we want to make sure that what we're putting onto our skin comes also from really healthy ingredients and from hopefully herbs that are grown thoughtfully and gathered with joy and gratitude and stored well. I like to store my own, when I'm storing my own calendula. You can see how beautiful and orange these are. I store them in a glass jar. Also, if you're growing more calendula like we do for Avena, I store them inside of clean brown paper bags, and then I put those inside of plastic bags, and then I seal them, and then I put them in kind of a darker corner so the sun doesn't shine on them, because calendula will fade quite quickly, and you want your calendula to have a beautiful vibrancy. And I personally really love to grow the orange calendula flowers. Both yellow and orange calendula flowers are perfect for preparing into calendula oil and calendula salves. And we're fortunate that there are many places like Strictly Medicinal sells organic calendula seed, Fedco Seeds here in Maine, Johnny Selected Seeds here in Maine, and there are probably other seed companies that you all know that sell organic calendula seed. And then eventually, if you grow a nice bed of it, you might have calendula reseeding in your garden, so then you can transplant them. You might be saving some of your own seed. But seed is also so precious. So being able to get a good quality calendula seed, and you're looking for calendula officinalis, Calendula is the common name. Calendula is also the Latin genus, and then officinalis is the species. And officinalis refers to that this particular calendula is the official species that we use for medicine. So what I've done here is just brought the tools, and the tools are simple. And I love that I still have this. This is a glass. It's a little bit more than a quart and size. And I've had this pot for 40 years. I bought this pot in my 20s. So this has always been my special pot. You can see it oftentimes still ends up with a little bit of beeswax in it. So you want, when you're choosing your pot, keep one pot that you just use for making salve, because you'll always have a little bit of beeswax residue. I prefer kind of a heavy duty glass pot. It's also, if you can find a nice size of a heavy duty stainless pot, that also can work really well. Enamel might be a little bit too thin. So either, kind of a heavy duty glass pot, or as I said, a heavier duty or stainless pot. Those are two good tools. You're going to want to have a glass measuring cup, either a 2-cup or 4-cup. This is a 2-cup one. And then some kind of a little stainless or enamel, I guess we would call this like a gravy pour, or something that people maybe pour gravy. But I love this little one. It has just a little lip on it. And this is a stainless one. And this is what we've been using for a long, long time. And then we buy a lot of beeswax from a particular beekeeper. So wherever you live, seek out your local beekeeper and see if you can make a relationship with your beekeeper. And I love the smell of beeswax. It is so, so sweet, as you all know. And you're looking to be able to, either if you're a beekeeper yourself or if you're purchasing beeswax, to get really good, clean, quality beeswax. And so what we're going to do here is, I wanted to say that about beeswax, is I'm gonna pour the oil into the measuring cups. You actually can see this process. And this, I think you can see, we just use organic olive oil, a cold pressed organic olive oil. And those of you who are making oils and salves, depending on how much you make, hopefully you can buy a gallon at a time. It's a little bit more affordable. So you can see it's got a beautiful, beautiful kind of an amber golden color. And that's what you're looking for. When I make calendula oil, I first dry my flowers, because there's a lot of water in calendula flowers. Calendula, when we harvest our calendula, and we're harvesting every few days, it's 8 pounds of fresh calendula dries down to 1 pound. There's a lot of water in calendula. So I'm really not a fan of people making calendula from oil from fresh calendula. You most likely will have some mold going on because of the water and oil. So I'm definitely an advocate of first drying your calendula. If you're going to make calendula oil, you can do it a couple ways. You can actually fill a quart jar or a half-gallon jar full of calendula, your dried flowers, and then just completely cover it with oil. And you can either then, if you want to, put it in a warm place. I'm going to turn where we've got noise happening with our heater here. What you can do is two things. You can either grind it up in a blender if you want to, your dried calendula and your oil, and then put that in a really warm place. The best place for home scale is if you have a gas propane cook stove with an oven, and it has a pilot light, and it can be like 80 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I like the slow infusion process. So I like to take about 2 weeks, but I'm kind of a slow medicine making person. Other people might do it a little bit more quickly. But that's how I've done it here. We let this calendula and the oil infuse for 2 weeks. So either blending it, if you blend it, you can actually, you'll have a little bit more flour to oil ratio. If you don't blend it, it might not be quite as concentrated, but that's also okay. It's really about your own style of making calendula oil. So I let it infuse for 2 weeks, then I strain it off, and I actually you can give a good squeeze through cheesecloth if you want, and just squeeze out as much of that olive oil as you can get. And then we're left with this. So I'm going to make, I'm going to measure out about 2 cups of calendula oil. I think I have about 2 cups here. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Perfect. Here we go. You can see that beautiful, beautiful golden color. That's what you're after, that kind of amber golden color for your oil. And it'll smell a little bit like olive oil, and it'll smell like calendula also. So what I'm going to do is pour, so 2 cups is, we know that it's 8 ounces per cup. So this is 16 ounces of oil. So I'm going to pour it into my pot, my Calendula Salve pot. And what I did was, when I make salve, I'm going to put this on. I've had this heating up for us. So it's, what I like to do, and I measured this. So you're going to want some kind of a scale if you can. And if you're somebody who's really enjoying making salves and oils and even some of your tinctures, this particular scale, it's an electric scale. Sometimes you can just get battery operated scales, so you can look in kitchen stores and things like that. I do think having some kind of a scale in the herbalist kitchen is really helpful, especially for measuring beeswax. So I tend to, for 16 ounces of oil, I have measured just about 4 ounces of beeswax. So you can see it's basically 16 ounces oil, 4 ounces of beeswax. So that's kind of the general ratio that I do. And I'm going to put this beeswax right into the oil. And what happens is I'm going to let it slowly warm up. Beeswax melts at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's important when you're melting your beeswax, that you're going to just turn it up a little bit, that you stay right with it. Because beeswax, if it gets too hot, it will start to smoke. And I also like to stay right with the melting process. I'm going to keep turning it up a little bit till I start to see the beeswax melting. Because when I think I mentioned earlier, the ideal temperature for infusing our herbs in oil is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't like to go any hotter than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, except for this very short period when I'm melting the beeswax into the oil. That's the only time that it'll have to go up to reach that 140 degrees just for a short period, so that the beeswax will melt. And I had wanted to just mention about the beeswax. You will find, depending on where you find beeswax, that sometimes you'll find they'll come in kind of rectangular molds. We use so much beeswax here at Avena that we get big chunks of it. And then I just take kind of a sharp tool with a mallet, and I can just cut, cut into chunks. So you might need just a wooden cutting board to be able to kind of just break into chunks. And then that's why it's really good to have a scale, so that you can actually weigh out your beeswax. Yeah, I'm beginning to smell the sweetness of the beeswax there. So just give it a little bit more. Yeah, so this is, I can just speak a little bit to calendula as we're just beginning to watch this beeswax melt, and to say that calendula, as we are talking about calendula in this beautiful class all about calendula, is that I think calendula really embodies the sun. So the flowers are like these beautiful suns. And when I think of the sun and the warmth of the sun and the light of the sun, for me, there's this sense of calendula opening us up to the warmth in our heart, the light in our heart, the light in our eyes, and that calendula can really bring healing to some of the places that we're unable to see so clearly in ourselves. And also calendula, just as a healing substance, calendula salve, is it's just one of my most favorite herbs for helping all kinds of various cuts and wounds. So like dry skin, and people start to get, just even around their nails, it starts to get really dry and sore. Calendula oil or calendula salve is so helpful. Or any kind of, like I got dinged the other day, and I love just to put a little bit of a salve or even just calendula oil. But I love salve because that beeswax helps just to bring a little bit of thickening to the oil, and it just goes onto any kind of a little place really, really well. Any kind of a little cut or a ding or anything. So calendula, we know that there's a lot of antiseptic resins in calendula. And that's why calendula is probably one of the most beloved herbs for going into, it's usually always a foundation of any kind of a salve. We're making calendula salve by itself, but you could also, if there are other herbs that you yourself are really loving and wanting to combine together, calendula can also be combined with other, you can make either separate oils and mix them all together, or like for us here at Avena, we have a Hilal salve that I've made for about 36 years. I've never changed a recipe. So I always say, make sure you write down your recipes, because you might have something so beautiful. And if you didn't write it down, you're going to miss that moment of inspiration. So make sure you're writing down your recipes just so that you have them. And you can refer back to them and you can improve upon them or shift or change them. But if there's something that you've really liked, then it's good to have that too. So for us here, the Hilal salve, calendula is part of that salve. There's a number of herbs in that salve. So, and I make them all together because that particular combination of herbs, I just have never changed. So, so calendula is so valuable, that those really sticky antiseptic oils that any of you who have gathered calendula, you're feeling that as you're picking the flowers. And that's the gift that calendula is giving to us in our infused oils and salves. And so that's why you want to make sure that if you have any kind of a cut or wound, that you've cleaned it well, because calendula salve on the skin is going to start the granulation process, the healing process of repairing any kind of wound or cut on the skin. Calendula is it's almost like it's gonna heal that up so quickly. So that's why you want to make sure that you have cleaned that wound. And for me, a few herbs that I really love to use when I'm cleaning a wound is sometimes I'll take a little bit of echinacea tincture and like a little rosemary tincture, a little sage tincture, little lavender. Those all have helpful antimicrobial properties to them, or strong teas to clean a wound. And then you can start to use your calendula salve. Calendula as an oil and a salve is also really, really fantastic as a breast massage oil, because we have a lot of lymphatic tissue in the breasts. And so this is also such a beautiful practice to have an oil or a salve, whatever you prefer, to be able to just making really good, loving contact with your breasts and just being able to really massage them regularly and have a relationship with a very special part of our bodies. And calendula salve is fantastic for nursing people, because any kind of cracked nipples, Calendula Salve or Calendula Oil is going to heal. So helpful. Anything that's any skin that's cracking, but nipples that are cracking. And also Calendula Salve is so helpful to use on female-bodied, the labia and our vaginal tissue. Calendula is amazing for also just bringing light into a part of our body that doesn't get as much light, and bringing beautiful, beautiful healing for any kind of irritation, any kind of stress, any kind of trauma. So calendula topically just, is amazing for all different ways that calendula, and our lips here too. Calendula, I love to use calendula for chapped lips. It's really, really helpful. So this has melted very successfully. We have fully hot calendula. So probably you can hear it making noises. Let me get a towel to put this on. Yeah. There, because it's hot. Some kind of a hot pad you want to put on it. So what we're going to do is, this is where it's really helpful to have a couple different tools, because we're going to pour from this. I'm going to put the hot oil and salve into here, and then I'm going to pour these beautiful tins. And again, so I tend to put this in here because this already had oil in it, and I like to have this be a little bit warm, because you're going to see, and I kind of keep it right over it. I'm going to pour it right into here, because if this, I can already see there's a little tiny bit of beeswax that's starting to just solidify a little bit. So have your pouring tools. You can see it also happening here. Having them be a little bit warm will be helpful, because the beeswax will start to cool and solidify pretty quickly. Yeah, you can see it already on this too. So I'm going to put this right back in here. And then what I do is, you're going to see, I'm just going to do my best. Whoop, there we go. You're always going to spill a little bit. I'm going to just pour. The great thing about beeswax is that it can come right up off your counters. So you can always, if you don't quite fill one up and you have a little bit left, you can always come back to it. So as these little tins cool, then the beeswax will solidify. And these are just little 1 ounce tins that are easy to find, but you can use all kinds of little containers, whatever you prefer. Little glass containers, 1/2 ounce or 1 ounce or 2 ounce, 4 ounce. I wouldn't use anything like aluminum. I want to use something either glass or stainless. What I like about little tins is I can just keep it in my pocket. So I'm going to come back and put some more in this. Yeah. And just, in your own family or in your own home situation, you can certainly, when you've finished using your tins, I usually wipe mine out really well with paper towel and with a little bit of alcohol. and then I wash them just really well, and I can just reuse them. So, in your family, in your home, I'm just gonna pour this right into here. You can see a little bit of the beeswax. It's amazing how beeswax will start to solidify so quickly. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep, yeah, you can see that one. If you spill a little bit, you'll be able to come back and just with a knife. Sometimes I'll take a little bit of a paper towel and wipe it up. One thing that I think is so beautiful about making salve too, it's like we have to be paying such good attention. So it's also a gift of being in the present moment with these beautiful smells and colors. The gift from the garden. And these little tins. There. So what I'm going to do is I sometimes will kind of look to see if I can fill a little bit more. Can kind of come back. The color is so beautiful. It's like such a beautiful color for warming the heart. There. Okay. There we go. Well, so there's this gift of beautiful salve, and I'm going to let them cool before I put the little lids on. And if you're buying tins, what I found over the years, especially when I think about our elders, is we want to be able to have a salve in a container that's really easy for them to open. So these tins now finally screw on and off, which makes it much easier for people. They used to come where you just had to kind of, try to just get them off, and those are so much harder. So just pay attention to what kinds of container you're using, what kinds of lids you're using, and making it be so it's really accessible and easy particularly for elders. And it might be that you have a child, a young one that you're sending salve off to school. And again, you want it to be really easy for them to be able to use. So this will take probably, might take 10 or 15 minutes for them to cool a little bit. So I think I'm going to just kind of bring a little bit of closure to this part of our conversation and just say that I also have been really inspired to help encourage other people to grow an extra row of calendula in your gardens or in your community gardens, and to be able to dry them and then make salve and then donate it to projects where women and children who have experienced any kind of domestic violence are the recipients of these beautiful healing salves. It's a gesture of healing, and we know that calendula is very, very beneficial to all kinds of wounds and really sensitive tissue that's in any way experienced trauma. So I hope that some of you will take that up. We call it the Grow a Row of Calendula, and it's just a really beautiful offering, both for conversation in communities to begin to recognize that domestic violence is really, it's a structural, really deep wound in our communities and in our obviously world at large. And we know that plants bring so much healing and joy on so many levels. So obviously there's a physical healing here, but as I was saying, I think of calendula, the energy of calendula is so much about warmth and light and the radiance of the sun. And I think in all the ways that we can bring warmth and light and the radiance of the sun into our personal lives, into our families, and into our communities, into our workplaces, calendula really represents an herb that has that real gift to help to bring warmth and light, and as I said, and possibility for learning and for healing. So yeah, hopefully many of you will take up that particularly Grow a Row project. And I'm just looking to see that you can see that one is almost solid. So beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Yeah, so they're definitely starting to solidify here, which is great. But I let them cool completely, and once they're cool, then I put the cap on them. So I think for this moment, for this part of our class, we'll just trust that these beautiful salves will solidify, and then these that are here, I'm going to give them away to one of our local projects supporting women and children. So I hope that each of you will take up, if you haven't already, many people do make salve, but if salve is new for you, I hope that this little video will give you the confidence to make salve and to enjoy giving it away to those in need. So thanks.